Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. We're live here on Facebook, the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition. My name is Dave Dadekian. I am a small business owner, which is why I'm here hosting this today. I own Eat, Drink, Rhode Island. But this is not just about Eat, Drink, Rhode Island or food or anything like that. This is a general small business conversation we're going to have every other week on Tuesdays at noon. As you may know, if you're one of a regular watcher of the Small Business Coalition and the previous lieutenant governor, now governor's broadcasts on Tuesdays at noon. Those have moved on now to the new lieutenant governor, Sabina Matos, and she'll be doing those every other Tuesday. And so in the other weeks, intermediate, I was going to say intermediate, I apologize. The intervening weeks in between, it'll be us with the Small Business Coalition coming to you live with some state officials, your elected officials, people that can affect small business that we can talk to and find out exactly what's going on in our state here in the small business realm. If you are not familiar with the Small Business Coalition, it's rismallbusiness.org. It's a nonprofit that is open to anyone who owns a small business. Please join up. We have bi-weekly meetings every other Monday at 5 p.m. that anyone is welcome to join. And we really want to attract everyone from the small business community in Rhode Island to those meetings and get your voices heard and be a strong coalition for small business and small business owners out there in Rhode Island. So I'm pleased to announce our first guest in these bi-weekly forums is our Commerce Secretary Stefan Pryor. He'll be joining us today for an interview. We've got a bunch of great questions for Stefan, and we really want you out there. If you're watching this on Facebook, in the comment section there, please put your questions in. Anything you'd like to ask, please put them there. We'll try to address those as time allows. This is a half-hour show, so here we go with our Commerce Secretary. If he's about to join us, there we go.
Hello, David.
Hello, Stefan. How are you? It's nice
to be with you.
Nice to be with you, Mr. Secretary. I don't think I've ever referred to you as Mr. Secretary now that I think about it.
It's a pleasure.
But thank you.
Oh, you don't need to start now. And Mr. Dadekian, it's a pleasure and congratulations on the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we're very pleased to have you as our first guest. It made perfect sense to have you as the first guest, seeing as how you do run commerce for our wonderful little state here. You've been at this role for what, about 6 years now? Is it right? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, maybe going on 7.
Yeah, yes. almost 7 years. So, well, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. I know you've done a lot of great things over the years, and the last year has been a year and a half or so has been very trying in many ways. But thank you for being part of our business community here in Rhode Island and helping support us all. Speaking
Absolutely.
of which,
well, it's been challenging for us, but it's been such a struggle for small businesses in Rhode Island. So we're grateful for the opportunity to help as much as we can.
Thank you very much. So speaking of small business, let's jump right into the questions and conversation, because a lot of people watching on Facebook will have questions. But first off, we have another member of the Small Business Coalition who wanted to tackle the questions of the most recent $5,000 grants. Before I bring her on, though, I've got to say that your haircut it looks really good.
Thank you. Well, you say that because the beard conceals my face even without a mask, and you're saying that's what looks good, and you're right about that.
You can be self-deprecating if you want, but we'll just take it as a great job done by our first questioner here, Jennifer.
That is great.
There you go. You know where I'm going.
Jennifer. It's Jennifer.
Hi, Stefan. How you doing?
Doing great.
Good. So I'm here to ask a couple questions. I know we talked a couple weeks ago, so a couple more follow-up questions.
Right in your shop, right in your salon.
Right in your shop. If you're in my chair, you're going to get questions.
I love it. I recommend it to everyone. Please try out Jennifer's chair in Jennifer's shop.
And thank you for supporting my small business.
Absolutely.
So as we discussed a couple weeks ago, several of our coalition members already signed their DocuSign. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you were aware, there was a second round of DocuSigns that came out. I don't know what that was about, but a lot of people got the second, just like a simple one signature type of thing. And out of our entire coalition, there's only one person that's received a check. So that's kind of worrisome. We're probably about over a month out now. And then we also received the business that she applied. I had talked to you before about her. She applied, she got denied. She got an email to apply again. She got denied again. And then the next day she received a DocuSign. So there's just some confusion on the whole process. It's not going as smooth as we kind of expected. So we just wanted to see if you can clarify some of those things for us today.
Sure. Well, I can tell you that, first of all, any individual case that someone wants to reach out to us, 521-HELP is the phone number to call. And we have commerce staff who are working really night and day to help people get through. So every case is different, but here's what it comes down to. Because we did not have an elaborate amount of paperwork that people had to submit, present your tax forms in triplicate, the forms have to be filled out properly. And if a business name is off, if you fill in one name in one place and another name, like just something that's more casual in another place, like if you said executive cuts, you didn't. But if you said executive cuts in one place and exec cuts in another, for example, or executive cuts and executive cuts LLC, that has to get checked because there's no other way to check that it's the same business. And I want to report that doesn't surprise anyone, but we have had a lot of fraud. And this is not Rhode Island businesses, mostly not. It's just what people do when there isn't a lot of paperwork and there are low barriers to entry. So what's happening in some cases is if people fill out their DocuSign and they write something different from they did in their application, different address, different name. The name we have people who can interpret the name, but you use like your mailing address or your street address and differently in different places, then you might have to sign again and give us the same information. So that's part of what's going on. But I can tell you that as of last night, we approved over 3,000 applications for funding. It's 3,088, meaning that they're out for signature. And we've had already 1,750 signatures come back, which means that they're en route. So any individual business that has an issue, it could be one of the things that I just described where innocently things are not lining up. And we do have people who are interpreting. We do have people who are trying to line those up and use common sense and get them through anyway. But please call 521-HELP if you feel like, I did everything. I signed my stuff. What's going on? The other thing to do is to go onto commerceri.com, look in the relief grant section, and there's information on DocuSign. And if you think you filled everything else out and you haven't gotten a request for a signature through what we're all calling DocuSign, then the website will tell you what to look for in the way of our emails.
Great. Thank you so much, Stefan.
Sure.
Jen, is there anything else you wanted to ask her?
I think you have the rest of the questions, David.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, Stefan, while we're still on that topic, for those of us who did fill out all the paperwork and sign the e-signatures and all, what's the timeline looking for the checks?
If it's all correct, and we're trying to be flexible, by the way, on how it's interpreted, it's a couple weeks from signature that you should expect to get it, because there's the getting it through the processing to issue a check, which happens a couple times a week at the state for every purpose in Rhode Island. And then there's the mail.
All right. Yeah, right.
So I would say a couple of weeks. And by the way, if folks are wondering, well, why did we do the mail? We did the snail mail, the United States Postal Service, because it's another way we could eliminate things you had to apply with up front. So fraudsters do allow have like electronic bank accounts where you can deposit money, but if you're actually sending a check to a business, it's another fraud prevention mechanism that saves time to applicant small businesses.
Right. Yeah, I think people aren't aware just how insane the amount of fraud is in all these application programs.
It is out of control nationwide.
Yeah,
nationwide.
Exactly. Right.
And the fewer barriers to entry you have, the fewer things required of the business or the individual.
Yeah. All right.
The worst.
Well, thank you, Jen, for bringing that up. And
so it should be we're right in the zone where hundreds of checks are going out. And yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second there. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, we have a little time delay for some reason. Who knows?
Yeah. Technology. It's still not perfect yet. But why don't we move on to some more questions? I've got a few here. And
I blame the fraudsters.
Perfect. And as I just want to remind everyone out there watching live on Facebook, if you have a question for Commerce Secretary Stefan Pryor, please put it into the comments there. And our producer Ben Barber behind the scenes there will be getting those together for us to read off after I ask a few that we've got here from the Small Business Coalition. Stefan, why don't we start with the employment issues? A lot of small businesses are having a hard time right now finding people to hire. It's been very difficult, not just here in Rhode Island, but really nationwide again. But in Rhode Island, we've got a bill that, I saw it went in front of the House and the Senate here. It's going through committees, going through the full bodies. Can you talk a bit about what that bill exactly will be doing and how it affects employers and what they have to do? I know it's not your wheelhouse. I know it's more taxation than commerce, but
that's okay.
we're hoping you could touch on it a bit.
Yeah, no problem. Of course. Well, first of all, I want to note that the problem of getting more workforce is maybe the most frequently cited concern that we hear these days. It's a constant, and we know that it's very real, and that small businesses, all businesses, are struggling to get their workforce to return with the feeling that there's a safe workplace, and also that the benefits make sense with comparison to UI. So the partial earnings bill that we have introduced basically works this way. There are two parts. First, it makes it so that people can earn up to 100% of the benefit, 150% of the benefit amount as compared to the 100% amount, meaning there's more flexibility to earn when you go back to work part-time, 50% more. So that way, they're not cut off from the $300 bonus or boost. It follows with them, even if their amount is 150% of. And second, it increases the amount people can earn before having their benefits reduced. So right now, the threshold is only 20%, and we're taking that up to 50% or half of their benefit. So in two different ways, you're advantaged if you're a part-time worker aiming to return to work, and you want to retain some of your income from working, of course, and you want to get that $300 bonus following you. That's the heart of what we're doing. We are also reinitiating the work search requirement in 3 days. We'll be reinitiating the DLT requirement that you show that you have searched for positions, and DLT has a way in which they, through staff and adjudicators, are able to determine, have people been searching for work. This is not a punitive process. It's simply aimed at shifting the presumption back to work and saying that, during the pandemic, it was important to stay home. And a lot of businesses were restricted or just through consumer demand had less of an operation. So it made sense for more workers to be home. This is a signal that it is time to go back. So the first part that I just described, David, the 150% and 50% maneuvers, that's the legislation. And the work search provision is a reinstatement of administrative policy.
Sounds great. So a lot of that is obviously on the worker end of things through the DLT website and things of that nature. Is there anything that small business owners should know to prepare for this, other than to share the word, obviously?
I think sharing the word is the number one thing. I think also working with employees to ensure that you are mutually conscious of the wages and that they're still eligible. Just not looking to game the system, just be conscious of the different wage levels. And I know that DLT can be helpful on those points. Director Matt Weldon and his team.
Yeah, no, Director Weldon's been fantastic, and I'm sure we'll be talking with him soon as this program rolls out. Thanks very much for your summary of it there. That's very helpful.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's touch on the restrictions. And basically, I don't want to say they're all going away this Friday, but a good majority of them are. Could you just give us an overview of what's going on there so that people are aware of what is happening? Obviously today with the masks change, but then also Friday is a huge amount is being lifted.
Definitely. So this is a big moment in time. Bottom line is everyone's aware now that the CDC has issued guidance that if you are vaccinated, it is generally speaking safe to be indoors or outdoors without a mask. And the CDC has said that if you're not vaccinated, it remains risky, especially if you're in any vulnerable community, any vulnerable population. But really, as a general matter, for anyone, it's still is risky to not wear a mask or not to distance if you are not vaccinated. So how does this translate into Rhode Island policy? So starting today, a few different things are happening. First, if you are fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask indoors or outdoors if you choose not to. So let me be careful to caveat and say that individuals who wish to wear masks are absolutely encouraged to, and we urge Rhode Islanders to be very receptive and embracing of what any other Rhode Islander decides to do. There are exceptions to what I just said. If you're fully vaccinated, you are not required to wear a mask, but there are some exceptions. In congregate settings, including nursing homes, frankly, including prisons, including other settings where people live together, there still will be masking requirements specific to those settings, and that's consistent with CDC rules. Hospitals are another example, perhaps obvious, but including people who are visiting for visiting hours, people who are working in and around hospitals. That is still the case. Public transportation, David, also still has the same masking and distancing rules in place. There are some other exceptions that Rhode Island is still working on, and we'll be offering more guidance of this going forward. But some of the areas that are higher risk, where it likely will be the case that if you are not vaccinated, you need to keep your mask on. If you are in the setting, you need to keep your mask on. Might include something like a club, a nightclub. So stay tuned for more on that.
Okay.
For the not vaccinated, you still need to wear a mask and distance yourself 3 feet under Rhode Island rules. So that's the fundamental rule. You're vaccinated, you can remove the mask. You're not required to, but you can with some of the exceptions I just scoped out. If you're not vaccinated, you still need to wear the mask indoors and maintain 3 feet distance indoors. That applies to workplaces and other settings that are indoors. Now, some businesses may want to implement their own rules, David. They may want to supplement these rules with their own rules. Is that permitted? Yes, it is. So, as a matter of fact, in the governor's executive order, there will be language that expresses that a business may institute its own rules, does not have to, but may institute its own rules supplementary to the state's rules. So could a store, a restaurant, another business, another institution require masks upon entry? Yes, they could. Even for vaccinated people? Yes, that would be their right to do. Could they want to maintain distancing for all people, including people who are vaccinated? Yes, they'd have the right to. A store owner or a restaurant owner might want to increase consumer confidence by requiring masks for a period of time. And our point of view is that's up to the individual business owner and the business operators to figure out for themselves, because we want to make sure they succeed under the terms and under the rules that they think are appropriate. So those are some of the basics. The places where we're still working out the exact rules, I mentioned nightclubs. The fundamental rule on that, by the way, is 50% occupancy without checking vaccinations, 100% with checking vaccinations. So that's the rule there. That is the rule, in fact.
Yep, right.
On hookah, the use of hookah, we're still working on it. On the use of saunas in certain health club settings, we're still working on it. In terms of vocal performances, because there have been outbreaks on the basis of vocal performances across the world during the pandemic, we're still working on those rules. But you can see how those exceptions are very few. And I described the other settings that the CDC advised, like public transportation and congregate.
Right.
One more time, the fundamental message that Governor McKee wants Rhode Island to hear and understand is that, in general, if you are vaccinated, it is safe to remove your mask. If you so choose, that's your choice. And if you are not vaccinated, we continue to ask that you wear your mask indoors and maintain 3-foot distancing.
Right. And I think it's important to realize that, it's this period of transition. I mean, like you mentioned, if a business wants to ask their customers to wear masks, that's their right. I think we all need to be forgiving right now, in both directions. Someone shouldn't, say, well, why are you wearing a mask? You don't need to anymore, versus someone else saying, well, you really should be wearing your mask. I think, we know what the rules are, but if someone chooses to do that and wear a mask, that's within their rights, obviously, just as it's, within their right to wear a crazy velvet jacket. So we did have a question on the last topic that Ben wanted to bring in from Tiffany. Ben,
hey, David. Yes, and hello, Secretary.
Hi, Ben.
Tiffany, we're old pals now. I feel like I see you more than I see my family. For small businesses, do you is it necessary?
I feel sorry for you, but thank you.
For small businesses, is it necessary to continue with temperature checks at check-in?
So let me give you this total answer. First of all, under the screening procedures of the Department of Health, temperature checks are not required. Even preceding the establishment of these new rules, temperature checks were not required. That is an approach that a business may take to conducting screening at the door. So it was never required. So if a business wants to simply ask people as to their COVID status, their health, they may do that, and they don't have to use a temperature check. They don't have to use a thermometer. So that just to be clear, they can even utilize a poster to ask people as to their health. Now, having said that, the new screening procedures that will accompany the new masking rules are being developed by the Department of Health. I've just described the existing ones. And within those existing rules, I want to repeat this point, there's flexibility all the way to the point where what an employer does is position a poster upon entry that says, are you feeling fine? Do you experience any of these symptoms? Please do not enter if you do experience these symptoms. That itself is screening under the existing rules. So if employers want to flex more under the existing rules, there's a lot of flexibility.
Kate asks, are we allowed to ask for proof of vaccination?
Yes, I'm glad, Kate, that you asked it that way. The answer is yes, you may, but the state does not require you to. So if a business, I assume that's the context in which you're describing, of course, Kate. If a business wants to ask for proof of vaccination, you may. The form in which you ask for it is up to you. Physical card, digital image of a card, an emailed record of a vaccination visit, or for that matter, self-attestation, meaning the person attests that they have been vaccinated. Those are all choices in the hands of businesses in Rhode Island.
And Carrie asks, do we still need to contact trace at restaurants? And then Jennifer also adds, and cleaning logs.
Got it. Glad for both questions. In the case of contact tracing, I'd like to ask all small business people on the line and all restaurant owners and operators on the line to check the RIDO rules for the exact language. But what I'm going to say to you is this: no, contact tracing logs will no longer be required in the way they have been. Please consult RIDO for exact language and rules, but no, every reservation, individual name, and contact phone number method will no longer be required. However, RIDO is asking that establishments cooperate with them in situations where there may be incidents involving COVID cases or, in fact, outbreaks. And I would ask you to consult their rules, but know that strict version that has been previously required is no longer required. The question that you followed up with, Ben, was on cleaning logs, meaning logs where you record exactly the frequency of cleaning surfaces, and those are no longer required. We still suggest that establishments clean especially frequently touched surfaces more frequently because it is better for everyone's health and safety that those surfaces be cleaned more frequently, but the logs themselves are no longer required.
Seem to have lost Secretary Pryor for a second, or maybe you've lost me.
No, David, you're good. Secretary,
David, are you still able to hear me?
Oh, there we go.
We can now. Yes, sorry, we were just having a little bit of
there.
internet issue.
You did just finish with the cleaning logs, and we appreciate that information. While we're on this topic, you mentioned checking with DOH for contact tracing info and things of that nature. I know you had a lot of great PDFs on the reopeningri.com website that people printed and put in their storefronts and on counters and things of that nature. Will those be updated for new information and things of that nature?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. So we'll keep an eye on that. And of course, there's
new
the
signage that's being produced today and tomorrow.
Unfortunately, the technology.
Are you able to hear me there on the answer on the signs?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. Could you repeat that, please?
Signage that's being produced today and tomorrow that's going to be available on the reopeningri.com site, and it will explain the new vaccinated and non-vaccinated masking and distancing rules. And there'll be signs that businesses can place on their walls or their doors, or can in fact use to replace the ones that they've had.
Right. Fantastic. Oh, thank you. Well, we're just about at 12:30, so we've filled this half hour easily. I want to thank our guest, Commerce Secretary Stefan Pryor, very much. Mr. Secretary, would you like to close with anything?
Just a thank you to you, David, and a thank you to Chris Parisi and the entire Small Business Coalition, and to Ben, what you've done over this entire year to help facilitate business input and to make sure that business voices, small business voices, are a part of the dialogue. It's been invaluable, and I'm glad we've made such progress. Many of you hear me speak periodically, and we track this information. Moody's, the rating agency, is ranking Rhode Island as having the strongest recovery in the entire Northeast. They have estimated Rhode Island's percentage recovery from the COVID economy at 93%. And they rank us 14th in the country, first in the Northeast. No one is satisfied with that. No one is resting on laurels as a result of that. But we're proud of the fact that because under Governor McKee, we've been able to reopen with strength, offer great flexibility, really ahead of the rest of the region. And because Rhode Island small business people have been well organized, have advocated, have received relief in several rounds, and for a variety of reasons, including the fact that we never closed manufacturing and we never closed construction. We're proud of the fact that we're ahead of the rest in the Northeast, staying ahead, leaning in, ensuring that there's more relief, more momentum, and more economic energy will be a continuing challenge for us all. So thank you for creating this forum, David, and thank you for your continuing advocacy. Let's continue to lead our region as we emerge from the COVID crisis.
Fantastic news. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Thank you again for your time today. For those of you who joined us late, this will be archived on Facebook on the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition Facebook page. You can always check the rismallbusiness.org website for more information about the coalition. And please join us again in 2 weeks for another one of these forums. And in the weeks in between, the Lieutenant Governor will be doing her forum as well. So thank you very much for watching.